There's an isser to do a maisa, an act that looks like what you're doing, you're being over an avera. To do something that looks like you're doing an avera, that's the isser the rabbanon of marasayin. You're not going to do something that person would see what you're doing, it would look as if you're being over an avera. In tonight's shir, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to speak about Maras Ayin that's negated to what we're learning here, Basa v'Chalav. Maras Ayin is applicable all over the Torah. But we're going to focus be'ikir on Basa v'Chalav, the Maras Ayin. The Ramah, Siman Pei Zayin Sif Gimel, the Ramah says, Azoid is a isser of Basa v'Chalav to cook milk and meat together. It's the rabbanon of milk and chicken together. The Ramah says, "V'noagu lasois cholov meshkedim." You can make milk from almonds, pareve milk. Umelichem ba basar oif. You can put chicken in that milk. Hoyel ve'in rak med rabbanon. So there's no problem. You can make a dish that has chicken and milk, pareve milk together. There's no problem. Since even if it would be milk, dairy milk, the whole issa would only be a issa derabbanon of eating it. So you're allowed to do it without any hecker. You're allowed to cook chicken and pareve milk together, and of course you're allowed to eat it as well. But no good to do it, it's mutter.
The almonds have to be while you're cooking it or while you're serving it?
If what?
The almonds have to be in there while you're cooking it?
We're not, the Viola, we didn't say anything about almonds yet. We're talking about milk, almond milk. You don't have to, no almonds b'chlal. Regular milk, not pareve milk. With chicken, you're allowed to cook it together, and you can eat it together, no almonds. However, the Ramah says, when it comes to meat, if you want to cook meat and this almond milk, the Ramah says you have to put almonds on the side. Avo basar behema, if you want to cook meat together with milk, pareve milk, over there, yesh lahaniach, to put eitz la'achalav next to the milk, shkedim shemarasayin. You should put shkedim so people will see that this milk is pareve milk. What do we see from this Ramah? That the Isser Maris Ayin is only by a Isser Deraisa, which means if it looks like you're being over an Isser Deraisa, over there is an Isser Maris Ayin. It looks, meat and milk together looks as if you're being over cooking an Isser Deraisa or eating it. So over there, you have to put shkedim, you have to make a hecker, you have to take care of the problem of Maris Ayin. However, by Isser Derabanan, over there, you don't have to make any hecker. There's no problem with marasayin. What are people going to think? That you be over an Issa D'Rabbanan? That's okay. What comes out from this? By weddings, when they serve after a wedding, at the end of the wedding, by the dessert, they serve coffee with milk, pareve milk, soy milk, almonds milk, pareve milk. Do you have to put almonds or a hecker near the milk to show that it's pareve milk? So what should come out, lafi this, since even if it would be real milk, it's only Issa D'Rabbanan, and even if they served steak by the chasana, meat, not chicken, because if it's chicken, it's anyways D'Rabbanan, but even if they served meat, it's still only an Issa D'Rabbanan, So Mamela, there's no problem, you could serve milk without a hecker. Rabbi is pointing out an important idea, which we're going to get to Be'ez Hashem mamash at the end of the shir, which is a concept that everybody knows. We'll see, the poskim speak about it, not actually in this case, but they speak about a lot of cases, and we're going to try to apply it over here. We'll get back to it. Moiridik. Where else do you see Maras Ayin, which is going to be Negeya back in Basa v'Chalav? You turn back in Yeridea to Siman Samach Vav, Hilchas Dam. The halacha is, it's a Gemara, the Isser Deraisa of eating, drinking blood is only dam of an animal. Blood of a fish or blood of a human, of a person, there's no Isser. No Isser Deraisa. There's no Isser. There's actually no Isser D'Rabbanan also not. However, the Shulchan Aruch says that if the blood came out of the fish, it went into a bowl, there's an isser to drink that blood, because people who see that you're drinking that blood are going to say you're drinking blood that's aser. These are isser marasayan. However, over there also we find the concept that if in the blood these the kaskasim, the scales are inside, so when people see the blood, you can see that the blood is blood from a fish, it's mutter. The same, you see also the next sif, the Shulchan Aruch speaks about dam of a person. If a person bites into a bread and the blood goes onto the bread, it's aser to eat. Because if a person sees the blood, someone sees, it'll look like you're eating blood, that's aser. However, if the blood is still in a person's mouth, says the Shulchan Aruch, it's mutter to be moitzes to take in that blood. I'm saying over Shulchan Aruch, I'm sorry if it's a little nauseous, the milk, the dam, but the Shulchan Aruch says that you're allowed to suck in the blood, and the poskim explain, the Yad Avram says that the reason why it's mutter is because everybody sees that the blood that the person's taking in is blood from a person that's mutter. So that's marasayan, which if there is no marasayan, it's mutter. But you need to make sure that there's no marasayan, because over there, what's the marasayan? It looks like it's as if the person's being an over an issa deraisa. The blood, if it's blood shall a behema, then it's issa deraisa. So mainly you have to have kaskasim, or by a person, it has to be inside the person. You can tell it's coming from a person. However, the Marshal in Yamshal Shloim in Chulin, the 8th parak, the Marshal argues. He doesn't bring the Ramah. The Marshal was at the same time as the Ramah. And the Marshal goes on this Gemara that we spoke about by blood. The Gemara says that blood of a fish, if it's in the fish, it's mutter. If it comes out, it's aser. As long as you have to have a hecker. If you don't have a hecker, it's aser. Says the Marshal, who hadin on Purim? I guess that's when they used to cook this type of dish. Who hadin on Purim? You're now allowed to cook turkey in pareve milk. Tarnago, chicken, turkey in pareve milk. Which he's speaking about an iser derabanan, to cook chicken, turkey in pareve milk, and even in real milk is an iser derabanan, to cook, not to cook, to eat. To eat is an iser derabanan. And he says that there's an iser of marasayan, which means there's an iser marasayan not only by isuri deraisa when it looks like you're being over on an iser deraisa, even if it looks like you're being over only iser derabanan, it's also aser. So what would come out from this marshal would be by a wedding, when they serve the coffee with the milk, they have to put shkedim over there. There should be a hecker. It's only an iser derabanan if it would be real milk. So Mamela, for an iser derabanan, lefida marshal, you have to make a hecker. What did you say? It's not really so much about the person that's drinking it. It looks like you're serving basa v'chalav. They serve by the wedding meat. It's interesting what you're pointing out. You're saying that Lamaisa, you're asking like this, by the wedding, when they serve the milk later, so they're serving basa v'chalav, it could be a guy that came only for dessert and ate a milchigel supper, could have that milk. Lamaisa, the problem is because you're serving it for the people over there by the wedding, and those people ate Fleishigs, so you're serving milk. You for sure can't serve milchigel, real milk. The Shach brings many rayas to the Yamshal Shloimeh, to the Marshal, that is Maras Ayin, even by Issa Derabanan. We'll bring one Gemara. The Gemara in Ksubas Tav Samach, the Gemara says that if a person has his gutter stuffed and the water's shooting out, it's going to ruin his house. Really, a person's not allowed to unclog, open up the gutter. It's Masakin Mon, it's Issa Deraisa. However, the Gemara says that you're allowed to do it kalacher yad, which means it's only midrabanan. And the reason you're allowed to be over this derabanan is misham pseida. But the Gemara says dafka betzina. You're allowed to do it by betzina. So you see that even issa derabanan, why betzina? Because really it is marasayin. So you have to do it betzina. So you see that there's an issa of marasayin even by issa derabanan. That's the raya. You see, there's an issa marasayin even by issa derabanan. So we have over here machloikis, if maris ayin is applicable even by the Rabbanon, negeya, chasen, and negeya, dishes that are only isuri the Rabbanon.
Isn't the dinner of maris ayin even b'chadei chadam?
Oh, very good. Reb Shlomo Yosef's asking a general shaila. B'tzina, you could do it because of the problem of marasayin. The Gemara says, "Kol mokem she'asru chacham." The issa marasayin is afilu b'chadri chadarim. So Tosfos says over there, Tosfos asks a shaila, and Tosfos says that by issa d'Rabbanon, even though it is marasayin, over there b'chadri chadarim it's mutter. So marasayin is even by an issa d'Rabbanon, but by an issa d'Rabbanon there is leniency. That if it's b'chadri chadarim, we're going to go on a little bit of b'chadri chadarim also. B'chadri chadarim, over there it's mutter. Because technically, b'chadri chadarim nobody sees. There is no marasayin. So there's a pretty clear reason to be mater. The Shach, on this machloikis, the Ramah and the Marshal, the Shach says, Ladina one should be machmer. Marasayin, even by Issa the Rabbanon, you should be machmer. The Taz says, it's kedai to be machmer. If you could, you should be machmer. If you have shkedim, put shkedim, which means even by Yesad Rabbanon. You should try to be machmer if you could. Before going into the practical din of this machloikis, it's kedai to mention the nachlas tzvi. Because Reb Shlomo Yosef already mentioned that we see over here that by Issa D'Rabbanon, Maras Ayin is not a problem b'chadri chadarim, meaning to say is if nobody sees it's mutter. The Nachlas Tzvi wants to be meyashiv the Ramah, what the Marshal says that even by Issa D'Rabbanon you say Maras Ayin, Zok the Nachlas Tzvi that even the Ramah is only talking about b'chadri chadarim. It's a kimta. The Ramah that says that you're allowed to cook chicken, eat chicken with milk, Pareve milk together, which is a Issa D'Rabbanon, Marasayin of a Issa D'Rabbanon. That's talking about b'chadri chadarim. Oh, not by a chassid, which means even the Ramah would agree that by a chassid it's aser. Not only does he say b'chadri chadarim it's mutter, but he says a moeder digi yisoid. Hu adin b'nei Beis, your family members is also considered like b'chadri chadarim. Why? B'chadri chadarim means that people don't see, so people are not choshid. So b'nei Beis, your family members know and understand if you're cooking this chicken with this milk, they know that you went out earlier to the store to buy Pareve milk. So they know. So that's a heter. And the Pri Megadim also brings this. When he says the din, the Pri Megadim says, U'le'inyan dina, besudis gedoilis. Meaning to say is your family supper, that's mutter by a Issa D'Rabbanon, boss of a Maras Ayin of D'Rabbanon. But Sudas Gedoilis, if you're in a public place, a chasana, very good like you mentioned before, a chasana, over there he says, Vade Roy Laniach Etzle Shkedim, like the Marshal, to be Machmer. So we have a Machloikis. The Shach says to be Machmer like the Marshal, the Shach. And the Taz says you should try to be Machmer. Nachlas Tzvi says that even the Ramah is maskim like the Marshal, but we have Machloikis. Wherever the case is that you need almonds on the side of the milk, Lefi the Ramah, you need it only by Marasayin Deraisa. Lefi the Marshal, even by Marasayin Derabanon. The Ramah says that the almonds can be on the side. The case that we mentioned before by Dam Dag, over there the Shulchan Aruch says that if it went into a bowl, it's aser because of Marasayin, unless that you have the kaskasim, the scales are inside the bowl in the dam. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. Why? So Reb Kivega says, because the Gemara says, the Lashon HaGemara, the Gemara says the isbei in it kaskasim, the Lashon Rashi, the isbei behadam, in the blood, dafka inside. So Reb Kivega says, Reb Kivega is even mesupik, that it could be even you can't take kaskasim and put it in, it has to dafka come with the blood. You can't take it from the... He brings a raya because dam adam. Why can't you also just put in kaskasim in the dam adam? Somebody mentioned before the shaila of if you need almonds for a hecker, could you use some? If it's not almond milk, could you use it for a hecker? But Reb Kiva Eiger also
Not all powder milk is almond.
almond milk, very good. But this Reb Kiva Eiger is mesupik. That could be even you can't take kaskasim and put it into the dam. It has to be with the blood coming out. There has to be kaskasim. Memela says Reb Kiva Eiger, if that's the case, that it has to be dafka inside. Says Reb Kiva Eiger, the same thing should be when you have Pareve milk and you have to put almonds, shkedim, you have to put nuts dafka inside. The Chachmas Adam says that you have to put it in the milk. That's already a little hard. It means if you want to be machma like the Marshal, but to put it on the side, to put it inside, Chachmas Adam, tzarich shi'aniach shkedim b'toich ha'chalav, to put the almonds in the milk. Yeah. We're going to get to the bottle in a minute also. The violet we didn't even get about the bottle. We're talking about just the almonds. We'll talk about the bottle in a minute. Very good. The bottle's also a good child. But let's even say the almonds. It has to be almonds that you could tell. I don't know if it has to be. Why does it have to be whole almonds? The has to be almonds that you could tell that it's almonds. Lamaisa, the Ramah says that it doesn't have to be inside. The Ramah says on the side. And Rav Shlomo Zalman says that Lamaisa, where the Ramah says that it's on the side is good, it's good. Other places, like let's say by Dam, it has to be inside. But to bring it, I don't know if it's a machloikis, if Reb Kiva Eiger is arguing. Reb Kiva Eiger says by Dam, you see it has to be inside the hecker. And Reb Kiva Eiger says, Avol, the Ramah by us, Reb Kiva Eiger is over there in Siman Samach Vav, he says, Avol by us, Lamaisa, you see the Ramah says on the side is good.
Even though people will be walking around the whole hall, like even though you put a hecker there, but people are walking around the whole hall, that would be fine also?
Yaakov's asking that Lamaisa, what does the hecker help by putting the almonds next to the milk? What's if you take the milk on the side also? I hear the shaila. I mean, Lamaisa, you're doing enough of a hecker that whoever takes the milk, you mean somebody else sees on the side that you have, and he sees you drinking milk. How does he see the coffee, this milk?
The other thing is that almonds you can see, but they're sitting on the table by themselves. Kaskasim you can't really see. They're small scales of the fish. You can't see them if they're on the table. You see them if they're in the blood, but you're not going to see them if they're just sitting next to the plate. It's too small.
Very good. You're being meyashiv that even though over there, you're being meyashiv that even though by blood, over there it has to be inside, because the only way there's a hecker is when it's inside. If it's on the side, people just think it's dirty. Not the Mashen get over here by the almonds, even on the side there's a hecker. Yeah, I hear. What's about, instead of putting the almonds, you want to make do without the almonds, you want to put a sign. You want to put a sign. Could you put a sign? Could you put a sign next to the milk to write that the milk is Pareve milk? What? That you should be able to. What? Why not?
It depends if it's not going to be inside. Is it a din in the hecker that people should know, or is it a din in that the thing itself has to be made of what it is?
What do you mean the thing? It's a hecker.
You're putting almonds into the almond milk to be made that it's really almond milk, as opposed to a hecker that's separate from the milk itself.
You're saying almond is more of a hecker metoichai.
Your song says that that's Pareve milk. Any different from the sign saying this is almond milk?
So Lamaisa is like this. Yaakov Akiva, that's your name? Shmuel Akiva?
He was good also.
Has a point. What's about the bottle? So let's move to the bottle for a minute and then we'll come back to hanging a sign. The poskim seem to be okay with the bottle, which means if you want to put out the bottle, you mentioned before the bottle. Let's say if you want to put out a bottle, on the bottle it says it's almond. It's almond milk, soy milk, Pareve milk. Could you put out the bottle? The Marsham and Das Torah says it's fine. That's like shkedim. It's like shkedim. However, by a sign, could you put a sign, a little indicator to show that it's Pareve milk? Reb Shlomo Zalman, this is in Hilchas Shabbos, but Reb Shlomo Zalman, he's discussing about a sprinkler, which we spoke about the other day. He says there's a problem of having your sprinkler go on Shabbos on a clock because it's maris ayin. People are going to think you're watering your grass on Shabbos. He says, you can hang up a big sign by your lawn that it's on a clock. I didn't turn it on, it's on a clock. That's it. Rav Shlomo Zalman said, why can't you hang up a sign? So he says, Lamaisa, a sign doesn't help. Because if a sign would help, then you could close up shop with all Marasayan. Nothing will be Asa Marasayan. Anything that looks like you're being over and Aver, just hang up a sign. That's what Rav Shlomo Zalman says. The Badei HaShulchan, just a second, the Badei HaShulchan brings a raya. The Badei HaShulchan brings a raya that a sign doesn't help from a Taz right here locally. The Taz says, in this Machloikis Marshal and the Ramah, by the Rabbanans of Marasayan, the Taz says, let's be machmer like the Marshal. But what happens, Dr. Taz, if you don't have amins, if you don't have shkedim? Sheyesh laniach l'tchatchilu shkedim gam eitzel basar oif, el b'mokim she'ein lo shkedim, ein leser b'shvil ze achil. If you don't have it, ein leser. Zok the Badei HaShulchan, if a sign would help, so what do you mean ein leser? So if you don't have shkedim, hang a sign to write that the milk. They had pen and paper. They had a feather with ink. What's the...
There was a sign in the kitchen that says that everything is becheskas Fleishig, and people are still taking it and putting milk into it. So they're obviously not reading the sign.
I hear you're saying a svara. You're saying a svara that signs don't help because people don't read it. So an amins, well, and if you put like a turkey or something, I guess that'll be a good hacker to say it's becheskas.
In the food that I need, right, it's more obvious than if it's a sign.
Good, you're saying tzvi. You're saying a svara. You're saying that lamaisa, when the item is there, it's more of a hacker than a sign. Yeah. After they, we're gonna get to. Let's try to move along over here. We're gonna get back to the lamaisa by chasanas. What happens? Because a lot of times you see that they don't put signs and they don't put nuts. We're going to get to it right away, yeah. The Yad Ephraim brings other heterim. I want to get the important at the end, the big yisoid in Marasayan. But first, the Yad Ephraim says that these many times that everybody will agree that there is no issue of Marasayan. He says different cases, like certain times by a bris, by a chasida, they serve a type of dish with meat and pareve milk. So people know that since this dish is only served at certain times, like a certain Simchas Torah dish, even though it's milk, pareve milk, it's okay. One second. And he says also certain dishes that they use. They use certain types of dishes. It's also a hecker. And then another thing he says also, how they present it. They put it out with fruits around it, so that mainly you could tell that people know, but Kitzer, it's a hecker. Instead of amins, this is a different type of hecker. It's not a sign, but it's another type of hecker. Then he also says another interesting heter in Marasayan, that in cases sometimes that the meat and the power of the milk is inside, wrapped around in a dough, over there there's no Marasayan, because it's in the hidden, it's not in the open. If it's in the open, there's a problem of Marasayan. You serve by a wedding, after Fleishig, you serve milk, it's in the open, but if it's in a dish, in a closed up barekas or something, a closed up dough, inside these meat and non-dairy milk, it's mutter. Lamaisa, so we have over here a machloikis Ramah and the Marshal. If these Maras Ayin by Isuri D'Rabbanan, in particular what we're discussing here is Maras Ayin by Basa V'Cholov. D'Rabbanan. Lamaisa, you look around, people are makel by Maras Ayin, even by Basa V'Cholov cases, people are makel, which we'll see the cases in a minute. So what happened to the Maras Ayin? What happened to the Maras Ayin? The Tveres Yisrael and Kalkelas HaShabbos in the his Hakdama in Mishnah Shabbos, he goes through the Lamates Malachas. He said it's the Yisoid in Maras Ayin. And this is very important. The Isser Maras Ayin is only a Isser. Maras Ayin is only a Isser when somebody looks at this action, this Maisa that you do, and he looks at it K'ili being Oivin Avera. However, If, when he looks, for the same way he could see you doing an Isser, it's very shaykh, you're doing it beheter, there's no more reason to think that it's be'isser than beheter. Over there's no Isser Marasayan. There is no Marasayan. Not Marasayan Doiraisa, not Marasayan Durabonon. If somebody looks at the case and it looks like he's being over an Aveira, that's Marasayan. But if for the same way it could be mutter, Aser, it could be mutter, over there's no Marasayan. And the truth is, a second, the truth is that this concept we see also by, it's really already earlier, the Rosh says, we learned that this past summer's man in Hilchas Shatnez, in the beginning of Hilchas Shatnez, if you have silk, meshi, there's a problem of mixing it because it's marasayan. With Samurai Pishtan, it's marasayan. However, says the Rosh, Bismanenu, says the Rosh, that meshi, silk is matzui. So when a person sees it, he right away. Why does he have to think that it's Samurai Pishtan? He could say that it's silk. So marasayan is only when it looks like you're being over an avera. But if it's possibly doing heter and isser at this, either heter or isser, there's no marasayan.
Yeah, according to that sheet there, you just mentioned, you have a problem with March of Shem Zamos. You never have marasayan. You always walk around with a sign. Wearing your grass and shad.
I'll tell you why it's different. By Reb Shlomo Zalman, you want to have the sign to accomplish, to tell people, listen, it looks like I'm being over an isser, even though it looks like I'm being over an isser, but I have a sign to explain why I'm not being over an isser. So you have marasayan, and you want to answer the marasayan with a sign.
When that person sees the sign, you're not being marasayan.
I hear, but says of Shlomo Zalman, signs it's not a teretz. Here we're saying it's not a kasha, and you don't have to answer a kasha. There is no kasha. You mask him. There's no kasha. By Shlomo Zalman, there's a kasha. You need to hold up a sign to answer the kasha. Here, there is no kasha. You see the person doing what we're going to speak about right now. There's no kasha. We know right away. Just like you could say issa, you could say hata. A minute, Eli. I want to just finish up. 3 cases come out which the poskim speak about, and then we'll get to the final, back to the chasanas, which the idea that you mentioned, the Rabbi mentioned before. First case. The Shevet HaLevi was asked a question. In Eretz Yisrael, in particular, it's very common. People eat Shnitzel, Pareve Shnitzel, soy hot dogs. Could you put cheese on the Shnitzel, cheese on the hot dog, which is even Marasayan Deiraisa? So Reb Vosner says there's no problem at all, because everybody knows that the Shnitzel could be Pareve. I would 50-50. It could be its milk, it could be milk, it could be Fleishig, it could be Pareve, and it could be Fleishig. There is no problem to put cheese on the Shnitzel or on the hot dog. That's one case. It's this idea, because it's the same way it could be mutter, it could be aser. That's the first case to bring out, to illustrate this idea. The next case, which is not a case in Basa v'Cholov, Ramosha once went in a car after Adlokas Neiris to go to Shul, to Yeshiva, I think in Staten Island. So somebody wrote him a tshuva, to say that you're not allowed to do it, it's marasayan. People are going to look to see as if you're driving in a car on Shabbos. Why? Because ladies are makabel Shabbos with Adlokas Neiris, so people are going to think after Adlokas Neiris is Shabbos, and it's a problem. So first Ramosha writes back, I'm makabel, what you said, I'm not going to go in a car, I'm not going to do it anymore. But then Ramosha says, Abelamaisa and marasayan, it's not a problem. Why? Since I don't know if he says everybody knows, or it's known, that even though ladies are makabel Shabbos by Hadlokas Neiris, men are makabel Shabbos moments before Shkia, a few minutes before, because Tosfos Shabbos, people know. So there is no marasayan. So there is no problem of traveling in a car after Hadlokas Neiris. There's no marasayan, because when a person sees it, it could be mutter as it's also. There's no marasayan. That's the second case. The third case would be an example of marasayan. Is the Cheshev Eifod, her Padva from London. He spoke about, could you make a sandwich and put margarine on the bread and then put schnitzel, steak, meat in the sandwich, and it looks like basa v'chalav. It could even be the rice if it's boiling hot, and I'll cook the margarine. I mean, that's a, could you make such a sandwich? So he says, right, he says there's no problem. Because when you look at the sandwich, the same way that it could be butter, it could be margarine. So there's no basa v'chalav. There's no marasayan and basa v'chalav. It's mutter. So what comes out from all these cases? The first case we said, Reb Vosner's case of putting cheese on a hot dog, and to put the Ramosha traveling in a car after Kabbalah, after Hadlakas Neiris, and this case of a sandwich. If it's not a Shaila, it could be either way, it's mutter. It could be it's mutter. So what should come out should be the same thing over here. By a wedding, everybody knows. That's what you mentioned right in the beginning. Everybody knows that the milk, when you serve at the end of a wedding, these Pareve milk, these people that are allergic to milk, it's a very common thing to have Pareve milk. There's no issue with it. So Mamela, l'chayr should come out that it should be mutter, which means even though we have a machlokes Ramah and Marshal, the Ramah and the Marshal, it should come out it's mutter. L'maisa, we can't just go away with saying that it's mutter. The Badi HaShulchan, L'maisa, has a very hard time being matter. He has a big arichas, and he says L'maisa, in this case of chasanas, that he doesn't want to be matter. But what will come out over here is clear. He's a machlokes achroinim, the Ramah and the Marshal, by Maras Ayin, the Rabbanon, if you need a hacker. We saw what the hacker is, shkedim in on the side, could you use other hakerim? And then finally we saw that there are cases that you don't need a hacker because there's no problem with Maras Ayin. Maras Ayin is only when it looks like as if you're doing the tzad heter, it is more tzad isser to tzad heter. But if it's equal, or people could say right away it's the tzad heter as well, it's mutter.